Many people believe that strength is shown through loud voices, bold actions, and outward displays of control. But in reality, true strength is often quiet. It's in the way you hold your tongue when someone disrespects you. It's in the way you keep praying even when your heart feels heavy and your eyes are full of tears. It's in the way you walk with dignity after your heart has been shattered. And none of this comes from pride or ego. It comes from sabr and salah, the two things Allah has given us to hold on to when everything else is falling apart. Sabr is not weakness. It's not passiveness. It is strength of the highest form. When Allah mentions sabr in the Quran, He often connects it with reward beyond measure. Why? Because sabr is difficult. It goes against the human tendency to react, to retaliate, to respond emotionally. When someone wrongs you, you want to strike back. When things don't go your way, you want to complain. But sabr holds you back. It teaches you to surrender your anger, your pain, and your impatience to the one who knows what you're going through and promises that He is with the patient. Salah, on the other hand, is your direct line to the King of Kings. It is your meeting with the one who created your heart and understands what it carries. How can you feel broken when 5 times a day you are given an audience with the one who mends what is shattered? Salah is not a burden, it's a lifeline. It's not just an obligation, it's your escape from the chaos of the world. When your knees touch the ground, your heart is lifted to the heavens. That's where healing begins. That's where clarity is found. That's where strength is renewed. There will be times in life when people will betray you. Friends will turn into strangers. Loved ones will leave. Doors will close. Jobs will end. Health may fade. But the one thing that never leaves you is the opportunity to have sabr and the command to establish salah. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, was in his most difficult moments, when he lost loved ones, faced rejection, and saw hardship, what did he do? He turned to salah. He would tell Bilal, give the call to prayer, bring us comfort through it. That was his refuge. That was his weapon. Sometimes we think the world has to change for us to feel better. We think the people around us need to treat us differently. We think life has to become easier. But what truly needs to change is within us. The moment you understand that your peace is not in the hands of people, but in the remembrance of Allah, you become free. No one can take away your sabr. No one can stop you from standing in prayer. No one can block the mercy that Allah sends your way when you lift your hands in dua and trust in Him. You may be facing something right now that feels impossible. A heartbreak that won't go away. A financial burden that feels heavier with each passing day. A family issue that never seems to resolve. You might feel like you're breaking slowly, piece by piece. But remind yourself, the believer is never truly broken. The believer bends in ruku, but rises again. The believer sheds tears in sujud, but walks out of prayer stronger than before. That is the power of connecting with Allah. That is the result of real sabr. This world will test you. That's a promise. Allah says in the Quran that He will test us with fear, hunger, loss of wealth, lives, and fruits. But give glad tidings to the patient. Why would He give glad tidings to the patient unless there was something uniquely powerful about sabr? Because patience in hardship is not just waiting. It's not sitting idle. It's striving while trusting. It's holding on to your faith when logic tells you to give up. It's waking up for fajr when your body tells you to sleep. It's forgiving others when your ego says never again. And sometimes sabr and salah work together in the most beautiful way. You feel weak, so you go to salah. You don't feel better immediately, but you stay patient. You keep praying even when you don't see the results right away. And slowly, without even realizing, you become stronger. The very act of being consistent in salah builds your sabr. The very act of being patient makes your salah more sincere. It becomes a cycle of strength, a loop of healing. And once you find yourself in that space, where your strength doesn't come from this world, but from your connection with Allah, then truly no one can break you anymore. They might hurt you, yes. Life might knock you down, yes. But you get up again. Not because of your pride or because you want to prove a point, but because you have learned the art of being held by Allah. You've learned that the one who practices sabr and salah walks through fire and comes out refined, not burnt. You've learned that these two gifts are not just rituals, they are shields. They protect you. They uplift you. They carry you through storms no one else even knows you're facing. We live in a world where words are often used like weapons. People insult, mock, reject, and even betray without realizing the depth of damage they cause. And sometimes they do it intentionally. You can be the kindest person, the most sincere, the most giving, and still be misunderstood, used, or dismissed. That's the reality of life. But no matter how deep those wounds may go, there is a place they can never touch, a space they can never enter, and that is your faith, your connection with Allah. The world may criticize your appearance, question your choices, or laugh at your dreams. But the world didn't create you. The world didn't design your soul, your heart, or your purpose. Allah did. And that means no matter how loud the voices around you become, they don't define who you are. When your self-worth is tied to what people say, you become fragile. But when it's tied to how Allah sees you, you become unbreakable. Because Allah doesn't look at the filters you use or the titles you carry. He looks at your heart, your sincerity, your effort, your taqwa. Many people suffer not because of what happened to them, but because they internalize people's opinions as truth. Someone called them a failure, and they believed it. Someone abandoned them, and they thought they weren't worthy of love. Someone laughed at their dream, and they gave up on it. This is what happens when we let people sit in the place that only Allah should occupy in our hearts. The truth is, no one's approval can bring you peace like the approval of your Creator. And no one's rejection can harm you when your heart is anchored in divine love. Allah knows your truth even when the world doubts you. He knows your pain when you smile to keep up appearances. He knows your sincerity when others misjudge your intentions. He knows how much you're holding back, how hard you're trying, and how often you turn to Him in silent dua. That knowledge alone should give your heart ease. Because as long as your Lord knows, you are never truly misunderstood. As long as He accepts you, no one else's rejection can truly hurt you. Yes, words can hurt. Yes, betrayal stings. Yes, being let down by those you trusted is painful. But here is the secret to becoming unbreakable. Don't place your faith in people, place it in Allah. Don't let the ups and downs of human relationships shake your spiritual foundation. People are temporary. Their love, their loyalty, even their presence, it can all change instant. But Allah is Al-Hayy, the ever-living. Al-Wakil, the disposer of affairs. Al-Halim, the most forbearing. His mercy doesn't run out. His guidance doesn't waver. His love doesn't fade. There are people who smile at you while planning your downfall. There are people who flatter you in public but destroy your name in private. There are people who are with you only when life is good. And there are others who disappear the moment you need them. But these experiences are not meant to break you. They are meant to teach you where to place your trust. They are reminders that the only heart you can lean on without fear of it shifting is the one that beats with the remembrance of Allah. When you protect your faith, your iman, your spiritual identity, nothing external can destroy your peace. People might confuse you, disappoint you, or leave you, but your soul stays steady because it is anchored in the one who never leaves. Your value does not decrease because someone fails to see it. Your worth is not dependent on how many followers you have or how much praise you receive. Your worth is found in your patience during tests, your sincerity in worship, and your consistency in remembering your Creator, even when the world tries to distract you. Some people may try to break you by using your past against you. They may bring up your mistakes, your flaws, your history. But the moment you repented and turned back to Allah, He covered it. He forgave it. He purified you. And once Allah has forgiven you, no one else has the right to define you by what you've left behind. You don't owe people an explanation when your heart is already known by the one who matters most. When Allah elevates you, no one can drag you down unless you give them permission to. You see, the moment you decide to live for your purpose instead of people's applause, a shift happens. You no longer fear being misunderstood because you are understood by your Lord. You no longer chase validation because you are secure in your submission. You no longer feel shattered by rejection because your soul is nourished by divine acceptance. This is the strength of faith. It builds an inner world that no external force can invade. It teaches you to rise even when your surroundings are pulling you down. And the more you strengthen your relationship with Allah, the more peaceful you become. Not because your life gets easier, but because your perspective shifts. You begin to see the insults as tests, the betrayal as redirection, the rejection as protection. You realize that everything that hurt you was actually guiding you back to the only one who can heal you. And that realization frees you from the prison of needing people to understand you. It liberates you from the need to always be accepted. It teaches you that no matter how the world treats you, you are already held, already loved, already chosen by your Lord. There was a time when the pain felt unbearable. You sat alone, silent, with tears falling in a room that felt colder than it had ever been. You wondered if you'd ever feel whole again. You questioned everything, your choices, your future, your worth. It felt like life had shattered you into pieces too small to gather. But look at you now, not the same person, not even close. Stronger, wiser, quieter perhaps, but not weaker. You were not broken beyond repair. You were rebuilt, redefined, and purified to that pain. That breaking didn't end you, it built you. In life, it is often through brokenness that transformation occurs. When everything is comfortable, we rarely reflect. We rarely grow. But when the storm hits, when we're forced to confront our deepest fears, our hidden wounds, and our attachments to this world, we begin to realize where our strength truly lies. That's when we are driven back to our Creator. That's when our prayers become real. That's when our tears start speaking a language only Allah understands. And that's when the soul begins to heal. You may have been betrayed by someone you trusted, abandoned when you needed them most. You may have experienced loss that shook your core. You may have failed in something you worked hard for. And in that moment, it felt like the world collapsed. But what you didn't see then was that Allah was rebuilding you in silence. Piece by piece, tear by tear. He was taking away the distractions, the illusions, the false sources of happiness, and redirecting your heart back to Him. That's not destruction. That's mercy in disguise. Allah never allows pain to go to waste. Whatever breaks you today, if you turn to Him, becomes the very thing that elevates you tomorrow. The wound that once bled becomes the scar that tells your story. And that scar is not shameful. It's a sign that you fought through what should have destroyed you. It's a reminder that you survived what you thought you couldn't. It's proof that your Lord carried you when you couldn't walk on your own. People often ask, why does Allah allow hardship? Why does He let the heart break? The answer is not to harm you, it's to remake you. Sometimes the heart becomes too attached to the wrong things, people, positions, plans. And sometimes the only way to wake up from that illusion is for the illusion to shatter. It hurts, yes, but it saves you. It pulls you out of a life where you were drifting and brings you into a life of awareness, reflection, and closeness to Allah. The pain becomes the path. Think back to a time you felt like you were breaking. What did it teach you? Perhaps you learned to stop expecting loyalty from those who never truly cared. Perhaps you learned to guard your heart better, to stop giving it away so easily. Perhaps you learned that your risk is not in the hands of a boss or a spouse or a family member. It is with Allah alone. That moment of brokenness became a classroom, and your heart was the student. And through that pain, you learned what strength truly is, depending only on the one who never lets go. The dunya is not Jannah, and Allah never promised it would be. It's a place of test. One day you're praised, the next day you're blamed. One day you're surrounded by friends, the next day you're alone. One day life is easy, the next day it's a struggle to even get out of bed. That's how this world works. But if your heart is attached to the one who is constant, you don't collapse with the highs and lows. You bend, you cry, you feel, but you don't break, because you've already been broken once before. And that break was your breakthrough. Sometimes we think that strength means never feeling pain, but true strength is feeling the pain fully, yet still choosing to trust. True strength is praying when it doesn't feel like it's making a difference. True strength is refusing to give up, not because you have all the answers, but because you know who does. That kind of strength isn't loud. It's not aggressive. It's not about showing the world you're fine. It's about knowing deep within that Allah is enough, even when nothing else makes sense. That's what your past pain gave you, a spiritual muscle you didn't have before, a resilience that cannot be taught in books or bought with money. It was gifted to you through struggle. And now, when a new challenge comes, you don't panic the way you used to. You remember how you survived the last one. You remember how Allah made a way when there was no way. You remember how what looked like the end was actually a new beginning. You remember, and you breathe. Because you know, no matter what happens, you're not alone. What once broke you no longer holds that power. What once scared you no longer paralyzes you. What once confused you has now become clear. That's the gift of growth through pain. And that's why no one can break you anymore. Not because life got easier, but because you got deeper. Your connection with Allah grew. Your understanding expanded. Your heart matured. You've seen too much, endured too much, healed through too much to go back to being that vulnerable again. You've been forged by fire. And what came out of that fire is not the same as what went, and there's a certain kind of fear that comes from being too attached to people. A fear that they might leave, that they might betray you, that they might stop loving you, or that they might take something away from you. And as long as your heart is dependent on human beings for your stability, that fear becomes your constant companion. But the moment you detach from the creation and truly attach your heart to the Creator, that fear disappears. Not because the threats are gone, but because you've placed your trust in the one who controls everything, including those you fear. When you learn to rely on Allah, it doesn't mean you cut people off or live in isolation. It means you understand the limits of their power. It means your peace is no longer at the mercy of their approval. It means your emotional state is not governed by how they treat you. You appreciate people, but you don't worship their opinions. You respect their presence, but you don't fall apart at their absence, because you've reached a stage where your anchor is Allah, not people. There was a time when the opinions of others kept you awake at night, when one word of criticism could ruin your entire day, when being misunderstood would send you spiraling. But not anymore, because you've learned that the same people who praise you today can turn against you tomorrow. The same people who stand with you in ease may disappear during hardship. And if your heart is built on that unstable ground, your peace will crumble every time they change. That's why true strength is found in spiritual independence. When your heart finds its rest in Allah alone. Allah says in the Quran, "And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him." This isn't a poetic verse. This is a divine promise. Sufficient means enough. More than enough. It means when people fail you, He won't. When doors close, He will open better ones. When hearts change, His mercy remains. That kind of reliance doesn't come overnight. It comes through experience, through hardship, through learning again and again that everything else in life is temporary and fragile, except the one who created life itself. Some people walk around in constant anxiety because they're always trying to please others. They're scared of making a mistake, scared of being rejected, scared of not being good enough. And what they don't realize is that they've given people a power over them that only belongs to Allah. No one's opinion of you is more important than how your Lord sees you. No one's praise can elevate you if Allah hasn't willed it. And no one's criticism can harm you unless it is part of a test meant to bring you closer to Him. When you stop seeking your value in how others see you, you find a new kind of freedom. You speak truth without fear of backlash. You walk with dignity even when others try to humiliate you. You forgive others not because they deserve it, but because you no longer want to carry the burden of their harm. You rise above, not out of arrogance, but out of spiritual clarity. You realize this life is short, people are imperfect, and the only one you truly need is the one who created you. Reliance on Allah means turning to Him before you turn to anyone else. When something troubles you, you raise your hands in dua before picking up the phone. When you need help, you ask the one who has the keys to every door. When you're afraid, you remind yourself that the one who protected you yesterday is still protecting you today. This mindset doesn't just bring peace, it brings power. A quiet, calm, unshakable power that allows you to face anything and anyone without losing yourself in the process. You begin to walk with a calm heart because you know Allah sees the full picture. You no longer panic when things don't go your way because you trust that His way is always better. You don't rush to explain yourself to everyone because you know He knows your intention. You don't crumble under pressure because you've already surrendered the outcome to the one in control. This is the result of real tawakkul, true reliance. It's not passive, it's active. It's not laziness, it's contentment with effort while leaving the result to Allah. When your heart relies on people, every slight feels like an earthquake. Every delay feels like rejection. Every change feels like betrayal. But when your heart relies on Allah, you adapt with grace. You understand that people are not your providers. They are not your protectors. They are not your saviors. They are just part of the plan, not the source of the plan. And once you internalize that, nothing they do or don't do can truly break you. You might still feel hurt. You might still cry. You might still get disappointed. That's human. But you won't be destroyed by it, because your hope isn't in them. It's in the most merciful. Your strength isn't in your reputation. It's in your relationship with the one who never changes. That's how reliance transforms you. It reshapes the way you handle life. It gives you the ability to walk through fire and not be burned. To lose people and still feel whole. To face injustice and still remain just. And when people see you calm while chaos surrounds you, they won't understand. But that's okay, because you're not doing it for them. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're simply walking in the light of divine trust, protected by a shield that no human hand can pierce. One of the heaviest burdens a person can carry is a heart full of resentment. Anger that lingers. Pain that festers. Memories that replay over and over like a wound that refuses to close. You may have been wronged, betrayed, disrespected, or abandoned, and naturally your heart held on. You wanted justice. You wanted closure. You wanted answers. But there came a moment in your journey where you realized that holding on to that pain was only making the wound deeper. That forgiveness was not just about releasing the other person. It was about freeing yourself. Forgiveness in Islam is not a sign of weakness. It is one of the greatest acts of strength. It doesn't mean you excuse what happened. It doesn't mean you allow the same person to hurt you again. It means you make a conscious decision to stop allowing that pain to define you. You choose peace over poison, healing over hatred. And when you do that for the sake of Allah, He lifts from your heart a burden that no one else could have ever removed. You feel light, not because the past has changed, but because your relationship with it has. Many people walk around carrying the weight of old wounds. They've moved on physically, but emotionally they're still stuck in a moment that broke them. Every smile is tainted by what they've been through. Every relationship is sabotaged by the fear of being hurt again. But Allah did not create the heart to carry so much pain forever. He gave us the gift of forgiveness, not just as an act of compassion towards others, but as a path to inner peace. Because the heart that forgives is the heart that heals. Forgiveness doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're strong enough to take the higher road. It means you value your peace more than you value being right. It means you've learned that revenge doesn't fix a broken soul. It only keeps you chained to the very people who hurt you. But when you rise above that, when you say, I leave this matter to Allah, you are no longer bound by the injustice. You are released. You become the victor, not the victim. Sometimes people think forgiving someone means they got away with it. But no one gets away with anything. Allah is Al-Adl, the most just. He sees everything. He knows what happened behind closed doors. He knows the pain you couldn't explain. He knows the nights you cried and the strength it took to smile the next day. When you forgive for His sake, He promises something far greater than any revenge or apology could offer. He promises reward, purification, and elevation. You've probably been through things that most people will never understand. Pain that you carry silently, stories you don't share because they cut too deep. And yet, despite all of it, you found the courage to let go. To not let bitterness harden your heart. To not allow anger to define your actions. That is not weakness. That is power. The power that comes from knowing your strength comes from above. From knowing that the one who sees all will deal with every injustice in His perfect time and wisdom. When you hold on to grudges, you're still giving those people power over your heart. They may have moved on. They may not even think about what they did. But you're still bleeding from a wound they inflicted. That's not fair to you. You deserve better. And that better begins when you say, I forgive. Not because they deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Because I want Allah to forgive me, so I forgive others. That intention turns pain into elevation. It makes you unbreakable. The Prophet taught us that the strong person is not the one who can wrestle others, but the one who can control himself in the moment of anger. That's what forgiveness is. It's not weakness, it's restraint. It's strength in silence. It's nobility in the face of injustice. And it transforms you. You become someone who no longer carries the chains of what they did. Someone who is no longer defined by what went wrong. Someone who has reclaimed control over their heart. And with that forgiveness, your past can no longer be used against you. No one can shame you with your story because you've made peace with it. You've turned the page. And now, your journey continues. Lighter, freer, stronger. Forgiveness didn't erase the memory, but it erased the control that memory had over you. It turned the scar into a reminder of resilience, not regret. And that's a gift only Allah can give to the one who chooses to forgive for His sake. When you forgive, you sleep better, you love deeper, you laugh without guilt, you trust again. Not because people are perfect, but because your heart is no longer trapped in the past. That's what makes you unbreakable. You've chosen to stop waiting for someone to apologize. You've stopped waiting for the pain to make sense. You've stopped replaying the offense. You've handed it over to the most merciful. And in doing so, you've claimed your freedom. You are no longer defined by what they did. You are defined by how you rose. You've walked through darkness that few people could see. You've cried in silence, battled your own thoughts, and carried wounds that made you feel like you'd never be whole again. But you kept going. You turned to Allah in those quiet hours, when the world had turned its back. You held on when everything inside you wanted to give up. And that holding on, through sabr, through salah, through tears and tawakkul, was never in vain. Every test you faced, every person who hurt you, every moment that tried to break you, became the reason you are where you are today. Stronger, wiser, closer to your Creator. You've learned that strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising with purpose after each fall. You've learned that peace doesn't come from people's approval. It comes from Allah's acceptance. You've learned that what used to break you has now become your foundation. That what used to hurt you now teaches you. That what once weakened you has only redirected you to the one who never abandons. And in that realization, you've become unshakable. You are no longer who you used to be. Not because you never went through pain, but because you chose to let that pain transform you rather than destroy you. You chose to forgive. You chose to release. You chose to trust. You chose to submit. And in that submission, you found your true strength, not in the eyes of people, but in the eyes of the one who created you. And now, by His mercy and guidance, no one can break you anymore.